today. My name is Jarren Peterson. If you are thinking that I look familiar, you're right. I was part of Nebraska Family of the Year in 1987. And I tell you that because I had a picture-perfect childhood. My mom, dad, brother, 2 dogs. We lived on Briar Patch Circle. I never thought about gun violence growing up because I never had to. And I certainly never would have imagined being here talking to you as a survivor of gun violence. My late boyfriend James and I were opposite in a lot of ways. He grew up on the south side of Chicago. He was strong and steady and predictable. He also was really shy. My mom said it took him 6 months before he spoke a sentence to her. James was completely devoted to his family, and he took care of everyone. He always followed through on his word, and even at the age of 23, James dreamed of being a dad. Unfortunately, James never had the chance to become a father. On a Sunday evening in November 2014, James went out with his friends and never came home. By 1 a.m., his family and I were frantic. We heard news there'd been a shooting about a mile from where we live. The police couldn't provide us any details about the shooting, so we drove around to area hospitals hoping to find him. We walked in the hospital in downtown Minneapolis, and I remember walking in and there was an infomercial on the TV, and the announcer said, "Today will be the day that will change the rest of your life." And right in that moment, I knew it was true. We drove around for a couple more hours and continued to be told that James had never been admitted as a patient. At around 3 a.m., James' mom was advised by a hospital security guard to call the county morgue. James had been there since 10:30 p.m. He was never admitted to a hospital because he was dead when the police arrived at the scene. Nobody called to inform us that James had died. Imagine a mother identifying her dead body's son over the phone. Without knowing why James was murdered, it was almost impossible to grieve his loss. Who was responsible? Why? Were we in danger? Months went by before we finally got answers. James ran into an acquaintance that November night. The acquaintance asked James for a ride home. James agreed. The man asked James to stop at a friend's house on the way. What James didn't know was that his acquaintance had robbed that very house a week before. When the people inside saw that man coming, they came out shooting. James was shot in the head and the neck with a sawed-off shotgun. A witness reported that his last words were, "I want to go home." The infomercial I heard in the emergency room that night was exactly right. Losing James to gun violence did completely change the rest of my life. The safety and security I had taken for granted my entire life was stripped of me the split second that trigger was pulled. 3 years later, I still suffer from the repercussions of the tragic and senseless crime. I was diagnosed with PTSD. You can't tell by looking at me, but the aftermath of gun violence follows me like a shadow and haunts me at the most unexpected times and places. There is no escape, and this is my new reality. But this is only part of my story. Yes, I'm a survivor of gun violence, but I'm also a high school special education teacher. This job has been my dream since I was a child. But it means that every single day I walk through the halls of a large high school. Every single day I'm confronted by things that trigger my PTSD. Every single day I force myself to put my personal trauma in the back of my mind so that I can truly focus on the amazing kids in front of me. And it's not easy, but I get the privilege of being with these incredible young adults every day, and they deserve me at my best every single day. I hope that my students will never, ever have to experience the unrelenting path of destruction that gun violence leaves in its wake. But we don't have to live like this. I'm going to repeat that. We don't have to live like this. We as educators don't have to question our dreams of becoming teachers because we don't know how we'd respond to someone coming into our building and spraying bullets. We as students don't have to accept that our safety and security is in jeopardy every time we walk through the doors of our school. We as parents don't have to accept that someone's unlimited Second Amendment right to own a gun is more important than our child's right to live. Yeah. And we as a community don't have to accept that our elected officials will do what they do not with our best interest in mind, but rather the campaign donations they will get from voting a certain way.
Vote them out.
Vote them out. We as a country don't have to accept that senseless gun violence is a part of our culture. We don't have to live like this. I'll admit to you that I'm devastated, disheartened, disgusted, and frankly, I'm scared. But don't mistake that for weakness, because more than anything, I'm ready. Looking around tonight, I can tell that you're ready too, and we don't have to live like this. We are ready to fight for common sense gun laws to keep our children safe, to keep them alive. Gun violence plagues our country. In the United States, one person is killed by a firearm every 17 minutes, an average of 96 people per day. 864 people have been shot and killed since the Parkland school shooting on February 14th. We've created a society that uses guns to solve problems, but senseless gun violence is the problem. This doesn't have to be our reality. It's time for action. You've taken the first step by joining us here today. Our purpose here isn't about politics, the gun debate, or choosing a side. It's about ending gun violence and saving lives. It's about honoring the 17 innocent people who were robbed of us in Parkland. It's about the 864 people who have died since. It's about all of the lives that we lose to senseless gun violence. It's about James. The next action you can take is simple. Join us at Moms Demand Action. Don't let this momentum stop when you leave here tonight. You can take out your phones right now and text the word HONOR to 64433 to get involved. Join, attend, advocate, educate, donate, post, vote. We value any type of support you're capable of giving to the gun violence prevention movement.
We are ready.
If you believe that this fight for common sense gun laws is a fight we can't win, you're wrong. If you tell yourself gun violence won't happen to you, I used to tell myself that too. If you've convinced yourself that you don't know anyone that's been affected by gun violence, that ends today. Because I'm standing here in front of you as a survivor of gun violence, and I want to make sure that you never stand where I stand. Thank you.